Hi, I'm Elyse, an occupational therapist and certified stroke rehab specialist. Today, I'm going to answer your questions about sleep after stroke. Question number 1, what causes sleep disruptions after a stroke? Well, there are several different things that can contribute to this, many of which I'm sure that you are familiar with. In the Stroke Journal, there was an article published that looked at 3 specific things that cause sleep disruptions, including insomnia, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. Around 41% of survivors reported insomnia right after their stroke, and 36% reported insomnia at around 3 months after their stroke. They also found that sleep-disordered breathing, like sleep apnea, were big contributors to sleep disruptions. They also found that leg movement and restless leg syndrome contributed to around 14% of survivors experiencing sleep disruptions in the chronic phase. Now, not reported in that study, but what I have anecdotally heard from a lot of stroke survivors are dealing with mental health issues like anxiety and depression, which can definitely either cause you to sleep too much or not sleep enough. And of course, pain. When you are uncomfortable and in pain, it can be hard to actually get good quality sleep. Question number 2, I still need a lot of sleep even 2 years after my stroke. Is this normal? The answer is yes. Your brain may still be healing, and we know that neurological injuries do not heal in the same way that, say, a broken bone would. When there's a neurological injury, and specifically with a stroke, your brain is having to route around those damaged areas to try to remake brain-body connections. And that unfortunately just takes a long time. And in addition to doing that, your brain is also trying to keep you alive. It's trying to run those everyday tasks like making sure that you're breathing, regulating your temperature, making sure food is digesting. So it has a big job of trying to run the day-to-day while also trying to heal itself. And that produces fatigue and sleepiness. Question 3, how can I fall asleep when I feel fearful and anxious? Really common concern, especially if you tend to be an anxious person or a worrier like me. Those racing thoughts kind of come up at night when it's very still and quiet. 2 things you can do. 1 is to start a worry journal. And this is where you give yourself 20 to 30 minutes out of the day and you give yourself permission to worry. So you write down all the things that are worrying you, either in a physical journal or maybe using an app, and you worry about them for that 20-30 minutes. But here's the caveat. After that time frame, you have to stop. You have to say, okay, I'm moving on. I'm either gonna try to close my eyes and sleep and calm down, or I'm gonna think about other things that make me happy. The second thing that you can do is to make a plan. There are a lot of things that are outside of our control, but there are a lot of things that are within our control. And to give an example, many stroke survivors are worried about having a second stroke. So if we think about making a plan for the things within control, are you eating a healthy and nutritious diet most of the time? Are you moving on a daily basis and getting some type of physical activity? Are you taking your medications? Work on the things within your control and try to set aside the worries of the things that you can't control. Question number 4, how can I get to sleep without taking medication? This is a great question. And the first thing we have to think about is that sleep is actually a reflex. And when we stress ourselves out to go to sleep, like when we are trying to go to sleep, we actually activate our sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight system. And it essentially puts us into a stressed out state because we're tired and we're not sleeping, but we're trying to go to sleep. And so it just turns into this loop of making us more stressed out and less likely to go to sleep. The second thing we need to think about is sleep drive and our circadian rhythm, together known as sleep pressure. Sleep drive is basically the pressure that builds up during the day to make sure that you go to sleep at night. It's basically like a cup that fills up during the day so that as you're doing more things during your day, you're getting more tired. And then our circadian rhythm is our kind of alerting system. It tells our body to stay awake during the day. And both sleep drive and circadian rhythm have to be synced up in order for us to feel sleepy at night. Some things that can help to sync up your sleep drive and circadian rhythm are to try and go to bed at the same time every night and wake up at the same time every day. And of course, try to be more physically active during the day. If you are more physically active, you are more likely to be tired at the end of the day and ready for sleep at night. And the last thing we need to talk about is sleep hygiene. And this includes the behaviors and the way that we set up our environment to set ourselves up for success to sleep. So one thing that you can do is, if you do deal with neurofatigue that makes you need to take naps during the day, try to shoot for 90-minute naps. This is kind of the ideal number because it allows your body to go into REM sleep. Shorter cat naps that are around 20 to 30 minutes don't let your body do this. You also want to adjust your sleep environment. You want to make sure that it's dark, you keep it cool, and that perhaps you use some noise, like a white noise machine, or you keep a fan on to help keep your brain engaged on that rather than racing thoughts. You want to limit stimulants. So around 4 to 6 hours before you go to bed, you want to make sure that you're limiting caffeine intake. And then you also don't want to drink alcohol right before bed. It may seem counterintuitive because alcohol does make you sleepy, but unfortunately, it reduces the quality of your sleep at night, and you're more likely to wake up during the night, even if you went to sleep easier. You also want to limit screen time to around 1 hour before bed and then cut it off after that. And if you are using screens close to bedtime, set them in warm mode or night mode so that you're getting a warm light rather than a cool, bright light. This mimics the sunset and kind of tells our brain, okay, it's time to wind down. And the last thing is, you want to make sure that you're reserving the bedroom for 3 things: rest, sleep, and sex. You want to make sure that 80% of the time that you're in bed, you're sleeping. Your brain is going to start associating the bed with those things. Question 5. I can't get back to sleep when I wake up. What do I do? Well, there are a couple things. The first is to look into cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. This is a specific type of treatment, and it's best when used with a mental health counselor that has special training in this. However, you can learn some of the basic principles, and I will link to the Sleep Foundation website for you to take a look at if you're interested. So this includes sleep hygiene, which are the behaviors and environmental changes that we just talked about, but it also includes 2 other things, which are sleep restriction and sleep compression. Sleep restriction looks at how much time that you're actually in bed and then how much time that you are asleep. And the goal is that you are in bed the time that you're actually asleep plus about 30 minutes. So you kind of go about this by keeping a sleep diary, logging how many hours that you're in bed and how many hours that you're actually asleep. For example, if you are spending 8 hours a day in bed, but you're only sleeping 6 hours a day in bed, you would want to try to cut your time back in bed to around 6.5 hours. Then, once the majority of the time that you're in bed is spent sleeping, you can start to try to increase that time spent in bed. Now, sleep compression is a gentler approach than sleep restriction, and this is a gradual process of decreasing the amount of time spent in bed to the time that's spent sleeping. The other component of cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia is relaxation training. And so this includes things like deep breathing. Maybe you're learning how to do box breathing at night to try and regulate your nervous system and get yourself calm. It may be doing things like meditation, trying to clear your mind and just being present in the moment. It can also include progressive muscle relaxation, which is where you may start at your head and work your way down to your toes, relaxing each part of your body as you move down from your head to your toes. Question number 6, how can I sleep when I can't get comfortable? And this is a tough one, but I have 2 different things to think about. And the first is positioning strategies. So for example, if you have low back pain, sometimes putting a pillow underneath the upper part of your leg, underneath your knees, can take the load off of the lower back and make you more comfortable. Also too, we want to think about positioning if you have weakness or sensory issues on your affected side. I'm leaving a link to my sleep after stroke video I did a while ago. It goes over a lot of different positioning strategies. But one thing to think about is avoiding laying on the affected side, especially with those sensory issues, because you may not be able to tell if that side is getting pinned underneath you and it's kind of getting in a weird position, or you might be getting numbness and tingling from that. The other thing is to talk with your doctor about medications. And I know that this is, not always a place where people want to go, but sometimes medications in the short term can be helpful, especially if you're having an acute episode, an episode right now where you are having pain, you are having discomfort, and it is not allowing you to get to sleep. Sometimes medications can be a good answer to that. Question number 7, should I take supplements to go to sleep? So I would recommend that you talk with your doctor about this one for a couple different reasons. One, if you are thinking about taking an over-the-counter supplement like melatonin, for example, you want to make sure that there are no contraindications or reasons why you should absolutely not be taking this for your specific situation. Another thing you want to consider is you want to make sure that it's not going to have an interaction with medications that you're currently taking. And you also want to look at the side effects and kind of weigh the risks versus benefits with your doctor. All right, everyone, that's it for today. Leave me a comment and let me know what helped you sleep better after your stroke. And I will be leaving a link in the description to my sleep after stroke video, which goes more in depth on positioning strategies and the sleep process in general. If you found this video helpful, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you're new here, subscribe to the channel and click the bell for notifications so you don't miss when I post a new video. Post Stroke is a nonprofit, and you can help us keep our videos free, either by giving us a super thanks by clicking in the YouTube bar below, by giving us a one-time donation via PayPal, or by becoming a Patreon member, where in exchange for a monthly donation, you get access to cool perks like behind the scenes footage and even YouTube shoutouts, of which I have some today. And a special thank you to Heather G and our Empowerer tier. We cannot do what we do without you all. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time.